Welcome back to the weekly news roundup and the Quicklines edition. And today we have an update on the Canvas story, and of course the most intriguing of the titles ever is of course our Quicklines section where scamming and stupidity meet. The glorious article that I'm just looking at going, how does anybody fall for this? But hey, we live in a world where people do stupid things. So anyway, to each his own. First, an update on the stolen Canvas data, which jumped up millions and millions of students. Ultimately, they made a deal with a hacker, and the hacker, quote unquote, returned the data. It's data. How do you return it? It ain't like they stole your typewriter. I mean, yeah, we deleted it. Yes, those of us who stole your stuff and used it to illegally extort you, we deleted it. We pinky promise. We'll even spit shake on that one, boy. Yeah, we'll sign a document we're legally binding to. Oh, we stole the stuff through illegal means and did illegal stuff with it? It's okay, man. So, yeah, Canvas, because they have this insatiable desire to put too much student information on the internet and keep too much student information on the internet, has now had to broker a deal to fund the next hacking target group of the shiny hunters, as they have stolen information and then now gotten a lot out of that information in forms of money and things like that. And so, of course, Canvas says they returned the data to us. These people are really stupid. And these are the people you're giving your children's personal details to. Just an FYI. How wonderful. Data cannot simply be returned, a Malwarebytes says. The company says the data returned and shred logs were provided. The real question is whether or not that hackers still possess the original files. It's whether copies were made and whether those copies were shared and with whom. Yeah, I mean, trust the criminals, man. They stole a bunch of stuff. They extorted you with it. You gave them a lot of money. They pinky promise and spit shake they're going to delete it. I mean, I trust these guys slightly less than I trust the data brokers. And that's a pretty high bar, you know. All right, names, email addresses, course details, private messages are enough to fuel highly targeted phishing and social engineering long after the headlines fade. So, you know, like in a year or so, we'll see all this stuff go back up on sale again. You know, why not? Hey, we didn't like that deal. Hey, Kim, you want to pay us some more money? We wanted about another $100 million. How's that sound? I'm not saying they paid $100 million. The details are not been disclosed, and I also don't know if one of these shady guys that's actually working for the hackers was involved in the negotiations either. We talked about that a little bit ago. But this one here is where scamming and stupidity meet. And I'm having a hard time understanding. I cannot comprehend the level of stupid of somebody that would fall for this. But anyway, let's go ahead and talk about where scamming and stupidity meet. So a Google Play scam hit 7.3 million downloads, proposing to sell fake call logs of random phone numbers you would put in your phone. Like, you know, if you're a stalker and you want to know who's my girlfriend talking to, you could download this app, put in her phone number, and get access to all of her call logs. I have bridges to sell in Montana. I have like 3 this week. I mean, really. So, of course, I also kind of want to know this. I think since Google's forcing everybody to verify their ID to publish something on the Google Play Store, I think that they should be forced, all security bulletins should be forced to call out the exact names of the apps so that we can all go back and look to see if they're verified. And then I'd be really interesting test, is that verified information true? Or did we just send law enforcement agencies on a wild goose chase to figure out who actually is doing that? Because I got news for you. A person who creates an app like this to scam people and uploads it to the Google Play Store and provides an ID probably stole it, probably from somebody who verified their ID on Discord. Okay? I mean, this is kind of how it is. This is nuts. But anyway, Asset Research said it found 28 fraudulent Android apps, collectively known as CallPhantom, that claimed to retrieve call logs, SMS records, and WhatsApp call history for any phone number. The apps have been downloaded 7.3 million times before Google removed them from the Google Play Store. Curious why they were there to begin with. The app names did much of the work, such as Call history of any number made the offer instantaneously understandable, packaging access to private records as a simple mobile utility. Unsurprisingly, our analysis showed that the call history data was entirely fabricated. Many of them gave you like the first couple digits and you had to pay money to unlock the actual numbers. So somebody would download this app thinking it's going to give the call history, SMS records, and WhatsApp messages on somebody else's phone by merely entering it in. And then when the app said, oh, we've got a lot of records for you, here's a little bit, pay us $80 to unlock it and get more, they actually paid money to these guys. This is where scamming and stupidity meet. What in the world is going on these things? Ah! Who would fall for this? Who would fall for this? And then, of course, you sit back and go, yeah, we kind of understand now, don't we? We kind of understand the sheer stupidity of some people. Never underestimate the power of the stupidity. All right. So users paid for information. Some CallPhantom apps tease users with partial results before asking them to pay the bill for the full history. Wonderful. Isn't that great? So there you go, guys. If you ever want to know where those are, that's where it happens to be. All right. AI chatbots are giving out people's real phone numbers. Yeah, that's fun. So a Redditor recently wrote that he was desperate for help for about a month. He said his phone had been inundated with calls from strangers who were looking for a lawyer, a product designer, or a locksmith, whatever else. So he was contacted on WhatsApp after Google's chatbot Gemini provided incorrect customer service instructions that included his personal phone number. Oh, dear. These cases give us another scenario. Worry about generative AI exposing people's real phone numbers. So experts say the privacy lapses are most likely due to personally identifiable information being used in training data, though it's hard to understand the exact mechanism causing real phone numbers to show up in the AI-generated responses. Come on, man. It's just sycophantic. I really want, no, Google, I really, really, really want that. I really, really, really need a phone number. Give me a phone number. Give me a phone. Okay, here's a phone number. Hopefully it gives you the congressional switchboard. That's what all AI should do. If you ask for a number, it should give you the congressional switchboard. There you go. Customer queries about generative AI have increased 400%, up to a few thousand in the last 7 months, specifically because of phone numbers. Customer asks chatbot something innocuous about themselves, gets back accurate information like home addresses, phone numbers, family members' names, or employer details. Customers may be confronted with and report the exposure to someone else's personal data, and then the chatbot generates plausible but wrong contact information. So when he asked a stranger how he had found the number, that's just going back to the first guy, they sent a screenshot of Gemini's instructions to contact Paybox customer service via WhatsApp, giving his personal number. All right, so here is what it is. And of course, that is not the personal number for them. That was just just his random number. But chatbots like Gemini, OpenAI's ChatGPT, Anthropic's Claude are built on LLMs that have trained on huge amounts of data scraped from across the web, inevitably includes hundreds of millions of instances of privately identified information. How long before we are going to get underworld bots that are explicitly scanned on all of the leaked data on the internet? It's probably out there already. I'm sure somebody has spun up some lambda to spin that stuff into there, but you never know. According to the California Data Broker Registry, 31 out of 57 registered data brokers operating in the state self-reported they had shared or sold customers' data to a developer of generative AI systems or an AI LLM model last year. Wonderful. So all the data brokers, which should be abolished anyway, are giving your personal information to chatbots to train. Wonderful. That's wonderful. So, just be aware, guys. It's maybe it's worth getting rid of our phones or just living under a rock for a while. That might be good. Wait until this whole AI thing blows over, This is interesting here. The FCC robocall crackdown raises privacy concerns over mandatory ID checks. So here in America, you do not need to provide your real information to get a phone number. Now, many other countries, it is the case. However, I think that the American framework on privacy is so bad. We should not be forced to do this. Because, if we had real privacy laws that said, you have to verify that somebody's real and then completely shred all that information, fine. But what they're doing here basically just feeds your real name, connecting it, certifiably connecting it to a phone number, and then feeding it to a data broker, which is actually going to make all of those spam calls worse, not better. So this is basically what the FCC wants to do here. They want to do a broader crackdown in illegal robocalls. Agency's latest proposals are already raising concerns that the cure could entail major privacy trade-offs. Proposal will expand oversight of telecom providers, strengthen caller ID authentication systems, and introduce stricter know your customer requirements for companies offering voice services. Now, when I went looking for this, apparently the public comment for this passed in February. I didn't hear about this. This is the type of stuff I keep an eye out for. I didn't see this. Best I can tell, the public comment period for this ended in February. Even though the article here does say the public comment period is open, but I could not find a record of this. The only record of this, same exact thing I saw, how the public comment time ended in February. So under the proposed rules, carriers could face tougher obligations to verify both their customers and the upstream providers routing calls in the U.S. See, this is the problem. Individual small customers are not your problem from inside the United States, are not the problem. The problem is all of these outside places routing the calls in because they know there's no jurisdiction by which they can be prosecuted for breaking the law. Somebody in the country can be. So, no, the FCC is gone bat crap crazy on this. These people are incompetent retards. They should all be fired. Bring in somebody who knows what in the world they're doing. All right. You do not need to do your know your customer on the people, on the individual consumers holding the phone numbers. You need to do it on the incoming routes only. And they're from outside the country, so constitutional privacy protections do not apply to them. And it's going to make it harder for them. Good. Who cares? They say that it's become clear that some originating providers are not doing enough to vet their customers, allowing bad actors to infiltrate our U.S. phone networks. You know what? I don't want any of those telecom companies having my real information. I certainly don't want them scanning my ID to give me a phone number. It's insane. Commission said the goal is to cut voice service providers that enable robocalls out of the voice ecosystem. Yeah, you don't need to verify an end consumer's ID to do that. Most controversial part expands on the identity verification rules for phone customers. Hey, ID verifications everywhere. Yep. If that happens, I might just get rid of my phone. Sorry, I don't have a phone. I can't get a phone without giving you my ID, so screw you. All right. While the FCC frames the rules as consumer protection measures, critics say the proposals could pose major privacy risks and effectively eliminate anonymous or prepaid burner phones. So Reclaim the Net proposed the kind of phone user registry that privacy advocates have spent decades to prevent. So, and this is true. All right. The problem here is that we have a privacy framework that has no privacy laws. We have informed consent rules that say privacy. You have to say what you're doing with information. And if you don't say what you're doing with information, you can pretty much do anything you want because there are no solid privacy rules. And all of the privacy rules we have in this country are an absolute joke. They're not privacy rules. They are simply informed consent rules. And if you don't agree to it, you just can't use the service allegedly. And that is in and of itself a fundamental problem. And that is the issue here. So the proposals, they say down here, the proposals are still in public comment stage, meaning the rules are not finalized yet. The reviews process, some requirements would not take effect for at least a year. Again, Tech Republic, if you're going to make a statement like this, why don't you provide us a link? You call yourselves journalists? It's still in the public comment section. I went looking for this. I couldn't find an open public comment section. If you found it, provide a link. What are you afraid to provide a link for a journalistic site that's not yours? You need that SEO so inbred you can only link to something inside my own journalistic article. If it's in public comment, give us a link so I can see it. But I couldn't find it. So, there I am, ranting and raving like a lunatic. What's my watch telling me now? It's actually my stress level's down from what it was when I was yelling at me. I don't know. See, this doesn't stress me out. I'm not actually about to have a heart attack. I'm actually enjoying myself. See, I do this, I rant and I rave, so I actually get calm later on. It's wonderful. Anyway, 1.8 billion Gmail users may want to check out their AI privacy settings. I think we did cover this earlier when it's kind of first rolled out. But hey, we got some advice from Lori. Is it Greiner? Lori Greiner on Shark Tank, because apparently she became appalled that all of her emails were being read and summarized by AI. And so she decided to go ahead and tell us about how bad this is, and you should turn this off. And hey, at least now that some famous person on Shark Tank with a lot of money is telling us, maybe a few more people will get in there. But again, if you are using a Gmail address for banking information or tax information or things like this, you are providing that email provider with financial details that, even if you're doing it right and your tax documents aren't actually attached to the email, which they should. If you have an accountant that's emailing you tax documents, get a new accountant. They're a moron. Okay, it should be done through secure portals. My accountant actually uses my Nextcloud. I send him my tax stuff in my Nextcloud account. He drops them back in my Nextcloud account. Perfect. I don't mind using their internal system to cut things as well. I said, whatever's easier for you is fine. But if they're not, if the brokerage company is emailing me back and forth, then, and you're using Microsoft or Google, guess what? Now they know when about the time of the year you do your taxes, which can kind of tell you if you're, typically people with lower income do their taxes earlier in the year so they can get that golden refund and, go buy a big screen TV or something. And usually people with more money tend to wait until closer to the deadline so they can get that information, infer that information. They also know how much communication, which could infer, do you have a lot of questions or things. They can also just simply get the fact you're working with an accountant. This is just metadata, but it's still metadata you may not want that AI or those companies to know. And so I set up individual emails for each of my different important accounts like that on my own server, set the emails to auto delete after I have an archive of the messages. So that's really a good way to do that. But so just walk us through this. And again, you can grab all the articles here. Look at the description of this video. There's a link down. You can read through this and disable all this stuff if you are forced to use Gmail for some reason. Just make sure that AI stuff is turned off. All right, Texas accuses Netflix of spying on children in a new lawsuit. As I read this article, I'm like, yeah, well, Netflix is, of course, stealing data, or are they? And this was really the question. So this is, of course, Ken Paxton in Texas. They're accusing the streaming company of spying on children and designing its platform to be addictive when it actually tracked, and they've said for years they don't actually collect information, but Ken Paxton is saying, hey, they have evidence that they sold and tracked and sold information even to kids online. Now, I did not find any article that actually showed any evidence of this. And that's one of the things I went looking for. The only thing that I found is a Dutch lawsuit for Netflix. They fined Netflix for not properly informing customers about data collection and sales. So at least in foreign countries, they are indeed they have been found guilty by a court of doing the things that Ken Paxton is accusing them of. So maybe it's not too far-fetched, especially since it's Netflix. They're making the majority of their money now from ads. Of course, they have some type of way to determine which ads to best serve you, because nobody can do contextual ads anymore or random ads anymore. It's got to be hyper-targeted because these people have gone crazy. And so what Ken Paxton is alleging is when they actually tracked and sold viewers' habits and preferences to commercial data brokers and advertising technology companies making billions of dollars a year. So, of course, Netflix says, Netflix takes our members' privacy seriously and complies with privacy and data protection laws everywhere we operate, which is very easy to do when there aren't any privacy laws. There are not privacy laws. Of course they take their privacy seriously and complies with privacy laws. There aren't any privacy laws. That's the problem. We need federal laws. It is illegal for any person to have your information without your informed written consent. You're doing business with them, that implies informed written consent. If I'm not doing business with 785,000 data brokers, they have no business having my data. Do you know how many problems we can stop if we just stop collecting data? Now, Paxton said Netflix marketed itself as a safe haven from data-hungry social networking when, in fact, it engaged in similar information harvesting. Of course, we know the smart TVs are listening and watching what we do. That once Netflix had stockpiled user data, and under those promises, it flipped the script and built an ads business that mirrors everything that it once attacked. So Netflix endgame is simple and lucrative. Get children and families glued to the screen, harvest their data while they're stuck there, and then monetize the data for a handsome profit. So he wants the company to purge the data collected illegally and not use the data for targeted advertising without the user's consent and pay civil fines for up to $10,000 per violation. Now, Deep Humor did an article on this one today, did a video on this one today, saying that this is actually going to, in his opinion, going to propose that Netflix starts doing age verification. Now, I'm not totally sure. That's an interesting argument, and I can see where he's coming from. Ken Paxton does like Persona as a company. He has he is, of course, the Attorney General presiding over the current app case, which is under injunction right now, which would require you to verify an ID of everything you do on any device you have. At least I think the Texas law was everything you do on a mobile device, I think. But he also successfully argued in front of the Supreme Court age verification for adult websites. So he's a guy that likes age verification. So Deep Humor uses that information to suggest that this might be Netflix going to be like, hey, we're going to do age verification. And where he may be right is that if Netflix is indeed collecting information, there is no law about collecting information of adults. There are about children, though, in most cases. Unless, of course, the company is forced to do age verification, then you can collect all the data from the children you want. But, we won't talk about that little loophole. So this would basically mean that any data collection on Netflix would then be valid because it would be verified to be a person over the age of 18. Now, that's his argument, and it's a good, compelling argument. The only pushback I see against this is this is a service that is frequently used, maybe not exclusively, but oftentimes used in big family settings where there is an account set up and anybody in the family with proximity to that television has it. So it's really hard to see exactly who is online. So, which would basically mean now every Netflix account has to be verified by an actual adult, but then everybody under the account can use it. So it would be an absolute exercise in sheer futility. But anyway, that was a neat video I saw from Deep Humor. It'd be worth going and having a look at it yourself and seeing what you think. I don't know. I think he might be onto something, but I don't know. I think Netflix is a completely different business than like a Facebook or a TikTok, but I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what goes on. That was definitely an interesting take, though, worth examining. All right, 1 in 8 employees have sold company logins or know someone who has. This is very frightening because, as we know that companies have access, especially these third-party companies have access to a lot of information for a lot of different companies. 16 different companies will hire the same third-party service. A data breach of that one service means that all sorts of data is leaking all over the place. And that really is a fundamentally problematic thing because now these guys just don't really care. Yeah, well, I'll sell the information. Because why? That third party is just a shell company. They're hiring their employees out at the absolute minimum they'll work for. So when some hacker comes by and says, hey, I'll give you like $5,000 for an account. It's like, dude, that's 6 months pay. I'll take that. And what the report found, though, is that actually CEOs and higher level people were actually more susceptible and more often would sell things out. And I agree with this. I work with some companies that are pretty big, and we got a guy that just every time it turns out he just wants to be handing his logins to everybody. I'm like, at least they have to call him for a 2FA code. But I said, you don't have to do this. All of these companies are giving logins for. You can go into the site. In fact, I usually do this for them. I go into the Facebook account, whatever else, and I will delegate access. I will make the other person an administrator. They're too quick to hand it out because they don't have the time or to actually handle the stuff. But the reality is that greatly decreases your security, so don't do that. But that tends to be the case. Your boss is more likely to sell the information than you are, but I think the boss is probably more likely to give it out to somebody offering a service. The low-level employees are probably more likely to sell it out for money. That's my take on that one, but I don't know. What do you think? Google warns artificial intelligence is accelerating cyber attacks and zero-day exploits. You think? I mean, come on, man. AI is going to change the world for good. Never mind that Thoreau was right? Our improved technology gives us an improved means to reach our deteriorating ends. That's right. We have great AI. We're going to solve the whole world with it. Except you can't solve much of anything with the AI. But the scammers can really scam people good with it. So, there's always that. Attackers now target software flaws in cloud services more than stolen credentials or phishing, making vulnerability exploitation a top entry method. Attackers no longer use AI only to write phishing emails or automate repetitive tasks. Now they experiment with AI systems capable of identifying vulnerabilities, generating exploit code, and accelerating attack chains. A shift towards automated attack orchestration, where modern models interpret system states dynamically to generate commands and manipulate victim environments. So the report also describes how attackers exploit newly disclosed vulnerabilities much faster than before. Some cases, criminals start scanning the internet for exposed systems within hours or days. After security researchers publish technical details, acceleration leaves defenders with very little time to patch systems before the attackers strike. All right, so there's a couple comments we have about this. So we were having a few internal comments. The first one is, especially with all these Linux vulnerabilities that came out this week, it's very likely AI accelerated the find of these. And some people look at this and go, oh, see how bad Linux is getting these serious vulnerabilities. Well, could you imagine what would happen if these guys did the same thing on Windows code? Because Linux code is open, anybody can look at it and audit it. Windows code is closed. If an AI happens to get into that Windows proprietary system, it could spot stuff and zero-day stuff nobody would even have an idea might be coming. And so Windows is in many ways still a lot worse. It's just that the source code is obfuscated, so bugs are not readily found, which is why there tend to be more 0 days in Windows than there are in Linux, because the Linux ones, they tend to be found by competent people. So that's one factor. The second factor I wanted to mention here, and this is another one we've been talking about this week, is the problem here, I think, is many developers are getting beat down for using AI. And so people are skeptical of using the AI, but the fraudsters are not scared to use the AI, which means that the fraudsters are using the AI before the actual developers of the package. And they're able to find and exploit things in it faster than the developers are. Whereas if the developers were able to turn the AI on their own code first, they could find the exploits and solve those exploits first. So the balance here would be that it's not that like AI is entirely bad. It's that AI is here, use it to find the vulnerability before the bad guy does, and patch it without the AI so it doesn't get regressive code. So find the vulnerability, look for it, and patch it. That is what you should be doing with the AI. So that's that good balance that one might want to find and strike about it. But yeah, the AI is definitely increasing this, and if people are squeamish about using the AI to track things down, that could be problematic for them. because the hacker's not going to wait for you. They're just going to do it because they don't have they don't have integrity. They're going to steal a bunch of children's data and then ask for millions of dollars from a big company who will pay it over there so they can go ahead and fund more stuff. Well, here might be an interesting, maybe a more positive use of AI if used in the right way. Potholes cost cities millions, and this company is using AI and trucks to fix them. So this is a company, there's a couple here. One of these is Waymo and Waze using Samsara here, which they're calling ground intelligence. And so this would be a camera or an AI system you deploy on a certain vehicle, which can go around and scan the roads for potholes and report things back in real time. Now, in principle, this is a very good thing if done right. If you put this on autonomous driving vehicles and on police cars and other city vehicles, this is a really good thing. If this is something that gets rolled out to your next GM purchase or onto any standard camera or other system that you might have inside of your vehicle, this is a problem because the amount of data that would be sent back can explicitly identify the vehicle. Again, though, if it's a police officer, which police officers tend to crisscross all of the roads in the county over any given couple-day period. So if you put this on the police car, they are civil servants anyway. They are driving a taxpayer-funded vehicle. Let the police car, as it's doing its patrol things, report the data back to the central database. If you're talking about autonomous self-driving vehicles, which I would prefer are not in the road anyway, but at least if they are on the road, then you know what? They can give us back the data as well. If we're talking about this being on consumer vehicles, I'm out. All right, that's I don't want that information, because then what would happen is the car goes back, reports the location, sends back, of course, logging the IP address and other detailed information. Now, it's good principle in that the city could get a full database of exactly where the potholes are, and this would actually allow them to plan routes to better optimize the filling of potholes. So this is actually a really good thing if employed correctly. But if they're going to put it on all of your consumer vehicles, it's going to create another dystopian, surveillance state. Which, by the way, we already have some of these. In 2019, the TPMS systems were mandated on cars. So cars in the United States manufactured after 2019 have to have a TPMS system. This is a tire pressure monitoring system, and those, of course, communicate wirelessly, which means they have a MAC address. And now there's little sensors they can put in the road that can track down your MAC address and see exactly where you go. Did you know that? That's funny, isn't it? All right, but anyway, potholes in the cars. That's a fun thing there. All right, Google is releasing a new laptop based on Google called the Googlebook. The Chromebooks aren't going anywhere. Of course, Chromebooks are effectively like a Linux, highly customized Linux. They're based on Gen 2 Linux and very, very customized. But that's kind of what they're doing there. This is a different thing. This is actually entirely based on Android. And it's not only Android, it's Android based entirely on AI deployment. So literally the entire thing is a giant AI-infused Android app or Android operating system in the form factor of a laptop computer. So I can't think of anything worse I'd ever use. However, if it's based entirely on Pixel and I can install Graphene OS on that, I am buying it. Let's see this thing. If Graphene OS comes to the Googlebook, I'm buying one. Because that sounds cool. But it's so embedded with AI and Gemini intelligence. If you simply wiggle your mouse pointer like this, it opens up a full screen AI panel. How dystopian is that? Oh, do we have a thing here? Intelligence is the new spec. Ooh, shake your cursor. Shake your cursor. Shake your cursor. Shake, 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 shake. And look at this. Oh, my God. Yeah, so you've taken a picture of yourself, and now you're going over and you're using the AI to put yourself into these things. Oh, my Lord. Again, like, if I can get this with Graphene OS, I'm all over it. I'm buying one. But if this is just like locked into this AI powered googly nonsense, I do not want to be touched by the googly appendage. All right, Google's AI-generated widgets from Android phones will also move over to the Google Books. Widget is more limited than you might expect, though. It can collect data from the web as well as certain content from your Google apps, create a personalized dashboard for your home screen. Wonderful. Phone apps and not phone apps, basically kind of like iOS. iOS has the phone apps and the iPad apps. My guess is it's something more like the iPad apps. Things that works on my, I do have a Pixel tablet right down here, which is running Graphene OS on it as well. And so, that's all useful information there. But I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of that, unless if Graphene OS is coming to this, then I'm a customer. Google's AI nonsense, not a customer. Graphene OS, customer. All right, and on to this one. This was a last minute edition. I actually saw this covered by, who was it? Maybe it was Charlie, Penguin Z, right? Penguin O, whatever that guy's name is. Moving on to the topic of data centers, right? And data centers are coming in. They're sucking up all the power. They're sucking up the water. They're sucking up a lot of things. There's a lot of crazy stuff. I think Matt Walsh just did a video today about the data center stuff as well, which is certainly worth watching because there's some good points in it. But over here, Lake Tahoe. Now, Lake Tahoe has mostly wealthier people around it. It is if you're unfamiliar with this, it is a very premier skiing destination for wealthy, and it straddles the California-Nevada border, just right outside of Carson City, Nevada. And in fact, I actually drove around it this last trip. I took a drive around Lake Tahoe. It was pretty fun. There's a lot of communities down there. There's a lot of houses. There's a lot of people, a lot of cities. And it turns out that the Nevada Energy Company that actually provides the energy for this region, they just decided that, the data center is going to be more profitable for us, so we're not going to provide you with power anymore. So as of May of next year, which gives them 1 year to find another power provider, 50,000 Lake Tahoe residents will be out of power so that the Nevada company can redirect the electricity into data centers instead. We're all screwed, folks. We're all screwed. Lake Tahoe doesn't know where its power will come from after the next ski season. Problem for 49,000 residents. Of course, this is because the data centers are powering the AI boom. So this is happening, folks. Now, a lot of the problem here is because the larger portion of the residential side on Lake Tahoe is in California, but the nearest power is coming from Nevada. And so you have a split jurisdiction. There's no federal oversight. I think AOC and somebody else are introducing a bill right now that would ban data centers federally until we get a better handle on it. And I can say even morons can get things right from time to time. I support this bill. So whoever's sponsoring it. But all that being said, the challenge here is that since the power lines are run by a utility company in California and the energy is coming from a utility company in Nevada, there's no simple way of doing this. And of course, now you're asking California to now support 50,000 other people. And if you know anything about California's energy infrastructure, it can't even support the things it has. In fact, California is so crazy, they're telling people everything has to be electric, yet they're telling people you can't plug in your electric car between this time and this time because we don't have enough power to power it. Diversification, folks, which is also really funny. Take it from a person who lives in a van, and I've crisscrossed up and down the entire country, including I have slept in almost every rest area in California. In California, despite they do not let you common plebs have gas-powered lawn tools, they still use gas-powered lawn tools to maintain their rest areas because the electric ones just suck. Okay? I'm over there. I'm waking up in the morning. I'm getting up. I'm here. I'm looking out. There's the California guys maintaining the rest area, running gas-powered weed whackers and lawnmowers. Yeah! Rules for thee, not for me. But now California is going to have to come up with more power for 49,000 more people. So, I guess a couple fewer electric cars are going to be able to be plugged in around Lake Tahoe. They have less than a year to find another power source. And this is frightening because this is wealthy tech people around here. This isn't like, this isn't the Appalachia out there that the president, which president was it? Was it Roosevelt? One of the Roosevelts really wanted to. They really want to have a national park in the east like they have in the west, so they came up with Shenandoah. The park, in my opinion, is one of the worst national parks. But the history is amazing because they really went in there and they wanted to get all this land and they were trying to take it with eminent domain, and a lot of people resisted. And so the entire stereotype this country has about mountain people just being imbeciles and retards is actually government propaganda made up by them to justify the people not being mad that the government is forcing people off of their land. That is literally the case of Shenandoah. The government created propaganda to push on the American people that people that live in the mountains are morons. So it's fascinating. If you do get a chance to go to Shenandoah, definitely you have to stop at the visitor centers and look at the museums and the things, because they have some of the old propaganda posters put up there. I gotta say, I mean, that's the thing. So but this is wealthy tech people. They said, no, you're not even important enough. We're going to give our power to the data center instead. So we're all screwed. Anyway, let's go ahead and have a look at some Sillyville here. The first up in Sillyville is Whisper. This is an entire idea that we're all going to be talking to our computers in the future, which is really funny because if everyone stays working remote and everyone's working in their home office, and you can get your day job done by sitting here talking to your computer, no big deal. But with all these companies having the RTO orders and forcing everybody to go back to work again, and then, of course, they love these open collaborative models. So now we're looking to have like 25 people in an open room all talking to their computers. And the computers are going to have no idea what's going on. They're going to be like, dude, as sycophantic as I am, and as much as I really want to please you, I have no earthly idea who's saying what to what. But yeah, a recent feature in Wall Street Journal looks at the rising popularity of dictation apps like Whisper, especially now that they can be connected to vibe coding tools and what that might mean for office etiquette. One VC said that visiting startup offices now feels like stepping into a high-end call center. Also, we were talking about this last night on our supporters show. If you're not a supporter on Patreon, Locals, Subscribe, Star, any of those, we do have a supporter hangout call, which is usually 7 p.m. on Wednesdays, subject to change from time to time. We were talking about, what about how many people work from coffee shops? Can you imagine going into a Starbucks you just want to, if you want a good coffee, don't go to Starbucks. I don't know, Dunkin' Donuts. I think their coffee's pretty good. Total sugar, but you go out, you get your frou-frou diabetes on a stick. Your pancreas is over there yelling at you, but you're sitting in the corner and enjoying your diabetes in a cup, and you're sitting over there, and now there's 80 you guys all in there trying to work on your laptops, and now everybody's there sitting there talking to their computers. Can you imagine the chaos? I'm the guy. I'd be sitting over there yelling from across the room, "Hey Alexa, order unicorn meat, confirm." That's what I'd be doing, anyway. So yeah, there's this whole push for talking to your computer. How's this actually going to work in these open collaborative office spaces where RTO orders are in full effect? I don't know, but hey, they won't have employees in those any soon anyway, Whatever. Samsung made a mockery of Dua Lipa by putting her picture on the TV boxes. So she is suing, and I've never heard of this artist, but apparently she's some famous artist or something, or semi-famous, a performer. Okay. Maybe famous is too strong of a word. Except Samsung decided, hey, this looks like a good picture to put in our box. And apparently it wasn't with authorization, because she's suing Samsung for $15 million for using her image on their advertising on their boxes. And you know what? Depending on how this goes, she might actually win that one. Good for her. Take on Samsung. Take them on. Get that 15 mil. But yeah, apparently she did not like the fact that she's on the Samsung box there. I don't know. Although the only way that she might have an out is if she has signed away her rights to the recording contractor, and the recording contract basically had a blanket, yeah, you authorize any and all promotional uses, and of course the producer of this is probably going, oh yeah, we're on the TV box, yeah. You know, she wasn't impressed, but she may just be the pleb. Who knows, right? I don't know what their deal is with if there's a producer involved managing appearances, or if this is a self-made artist. I have no earthly idea. I've never heard of this person, but I thought it was funny that some artist is suing Samsung for using their image on the box. So there you go. Enter Sillyville. And finally, TikTok now wants to be the place where you book the trip for the place you just saw on TikTok. Now, do you remember a few years ago, maybe it wasn't even a few years ago, maybe it was a few months ago, where the big problem with TikTok is people actually doing videos on destinations that didn't actually exist, and people were actually going out and trying to find these particular places that didn't actually exist, and trying to book vacations to places that were actually really dangerous, that they thought were going to be amazing based on a TikTok video. Oh, now they're just going to supercharge all that. Can you just imagine this combined with AI? Okay, you got some person over there. They're meandering on down Tatooine. They stop in the canteen at Mos Eisley. There's some Jedis fighting in the background, and you hear some skerfuffle and see that Han Solo definitely shot first. And once you see all this kind of stuff, and then you get an offer from TikTok to book your vacation to Tatooine. Because that's the world we live in. And, you know, if people are going to be paying the scammers for where stupidity and scamming unite, I can certainly imagine people utilizing the AI, generate places that don't exist, and then selling tickets to the places that they just created in their AI fantasy mind. So have at it, TikTok. I can't wait to see the chaos. If you want to help support the channel, have a look at the website, switchedtolinux.com/support. All the ways we have to support the channel are over there. Thank you for watching, and hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.